right? You go out with friends and family and you go sing crazy songs that you only sing once a year. You only do things that you really do only once a year, right? You go to all these neighbors' houses. You sometimes stand outside the house and sometimes you go inside the house and you sing songs. And then you go to the next thing, you go to the next thing. And we never wanted to stop, right? It was fun. The rain reminded me of one time, I remember, well, several times, in California where it never rains. Little boys in boots always seem to find the puddles. And that, my twin brother always, and I, we always seemed to do. Didn't matter where the puddle was. We would find it, and we would stomp in it. And then if my parents gave us umbrellas, you know we used that umbrella like it was supposed to, right? It was supposed to keep the rain off. And we never used it as a sword. We never used it as a shield. Yeah, no. We got definitely plenty of times where we got to use it as swords and shields. We never wanted it to stop. And yet we knew after caroling, in this church's tradition, we do a soup. And you know it's good food and good fellowship, and it's warm, and you're going to have hot chocolate, and you're going to have cider. But where I came from, we grew up in this neighborhood. The neighborhood was family. Kind of like a church family. I was literally grew up in that house and grew up in that neighborhood. And so the neighbors that we went with literally had seen us grow up, had babysat us. My parents had babysat the other kids in the neighborhood. And so when there's 40 of us, that was like the extended family. Where we had known each other for years and done this song for years. And we never wanted to stop. But when you got to the next person's house, you knew the person, it was in the center of the street. They had a computer. Now, I'm an 80s kid. And so computers in that time were like new. And there was a computer in our house, and we were never allowed to touch it. We were only allowed to look at it from a distance because you knew if you let a little kid, twins, like us, close enough, looking meant touching, no matter what it was. And so my parents were like, you can't touch it. But if you went caroling, after caroling, they would put on a computer game. And we were so excited. We weren't allowed to play because we were too young, and the older boys got to play, and they're like, yeah, whatever, you can watch. But it was so much fun, we never wanted it to stop. We never wanted the caroling to stop. We never wanted the after party to stop. And that was so much fun, and I remember that. And the story today, I think it's the same. I think it's all about transitions, going from one moment to the next. See, we have in the text a gentleman named John the Baptist and a gentleman named Jesus. Now, we know from the Gospels that they're cousins. We know that they probably grew up together, at least had some knowledge of each other. John the Baptist was preaching before Jesus preached. He was giving advice before Jesus gave advice. John the Baptist baptized, that's where we get the name John the Baptist, baptized Jesus to start his ministry. And in this moment, we have John going, hey, are you the one who is to come, or are we waiting for another? It's a moment of transition between one holy person to the next. And I think this helps us understand that there's transitions in life. Just like when we talk with the kids, and I forgot to mention that after service today we're going to be celebrating some birthdays. But birthdays are transitions, right? Cycles of the year, end of the year parties, Christmas break, summer break, they're all transitions. We have the 4 seasons, they're transitions. Now, I know we didn't have to come to church on Sunday to hear that their life is full of transitions. We know this, right? We're planning for a huge transition. And yet, I remember back to the caroling and how we never wanted it to stop. And I remember back to what my mom would talk about is that there was people back in the day in the 70s and the 80s and even in the 90s that said computers would be a fad, right? They would go away one day. My mom was a baby boomer, and she talked about how she remembered growing up how people said that cars would be a novelty and it would go away. No one would drive cars one day, they said, the experts said. And yet today, most families own more than one car. Same with microwaves, same with computers, same with phones, all that stuff. And so yet life, we have people who still struggle with transitions today. And so I asked myself, why this story? Out of all the stories we could write about in Jesus, out of all the things that we could preach about on Sunday, why did the lectionary include this? And I think because God wants us to know. And it's not because we don't know. It's because God is including us in his plan. See, last week, Pastor Katie, my boss, talked about Isaiah 11. In Isaiah 11, there's a prophecy. A shoot will come out of the stump of Jesse. Jesse being the father of David, and many generations later, Jesus. A branch that will shoot out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the Spirit and the fear of the Lord. He will delight in the fear of the Lord. And this is what I love, and this is why I'm a Christian today. He shall not judge by what his eyes see or by what his ears hear, but with righteousness he will judge the poor, and decide with equality and equity for the meek of the earth. And he will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth and the breath of his lips. He shall remove the wicked, and the righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around him. Jesus came to fulfill a prophecy that literally says God wants us to have good things. God doesn't want us to have evil things. God wants us to enjoy the things that are beautiful and good, whether it's music, whether it's the art that we see in the windows, whether it's peace on earth, whether it's blessings, whether it's getting rid of racism and sexism, whether it's breaking down the barriers. See, John the Baptist is in prison right now. He's in prison because he spoke truth to power. And I can't imagine that he thought that his life was going to be the way it was as it was turning out. Transitions happen. He's about 30 years old. He knows this. Yet it's not going according to his plan. Right? We have the holidays coming up. They're supposed to be fun. So why is it so stressful? I gotta get my house clean. I gotta get all the laundry put away. I gotta make a whole bunch of cookies. And my kids are already telling me what kind of cookies they want. And I'm like, you're just asking me for chocolate chip cookies. Like, is there any other cookie you want? They're like, no. Right? Why? It's sometimes so difficult to transition from one to the next. And this story for us is that Jesus comes down to give hope. And I think that leads us, transitions happen in life. God wants us to know, but why? Is because God wants us to win. See, Jesus, I go to CST, Claremont School of Theology, and there's people there that say, why doesn't Jesus just say yes? You know, hey, are you the Messiah? Yes or no? It's really a yes or no question, right? And he answers it more like a politician or a lawyer. And he's like, nah, I'm going to give you like the long answer. He answers it like how my professors do. I'm like, so what's the answer to this? And they tell me this really, really long answer. I'm just like, 2 + 2 is 4. Let's condense this. But Jesus doesn't do that. Because, and I think anyone could have said that, right? Hey, are you the guy that I'm supposed to follow? Yes! And throughout history, we've had all kinds of people that do that. But Jesus says this instead. Go tell John what you see and hear. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, the poor have good news brought to them. He's like, let my actions speak louder than words. I have a reputation. 2,000 years later, we still talk about that reputation today. It's not just that transitions happen and that God wants us to know. It's that God's setting us up for success and letting us in on his plan and saying, I'm telling you something that's going to happen next. And it might not happen the way you think it's supposed to happen, but it's still going to happen and it's still going to be awesome, and I'm still going to break things down and make things beautiful. I'm still going to speak truth to power. I'm still going to be that person that says, hey, are you doing good things? Are you being kind to strangers? Are you looking out for the poor? Are you helping the needy? That's what that's about. God doesn't come down and go, John the Baptist, you're a prophet. You should know this. How dare you ask questions? So he welcomes the question, and he says, I know you're struggling with the transition. Let me help you. I know you're struggling with this. Let me give you an answer. But I'm not going to give you just an easy answer that anyone can give you. I'm going to give you the answer that only God can give you. I'm the one who heals. I'm the one who gives hope. I'm the one who saves. It's the only answer that only Jesus could give. And in a world today where there's so many answers for all kinds of questions, where there's so much truth, when there's so much truth out there that anyone can seem to prove, Jesus goes and goes, look at my life. God wants us to succeed. And then, as they went away, Jesus spoke to the crowds about John. And I love that. And he gives compliments to John. And I think that's a good way to end this sermon today. Is, are we doing that? Are we doing what Jesus did? Are we adjusting to the transitions? And are we giving sight to the blind? Are we helping the lame walk? Are we giving the deaf hearing and the dead raised and the good news? See, I'm an intern here. I've been here working since July. My internship started in technically late August, early September. But one of the things that was one of the requirements of that internship was that I work in the youth group. And in the youth group, there's 3 churches that have come together to support the youth of this church, the church in Chino youth group, and the youth in Upland. And there's 4 seniors that are going to graduate there. Now, I don't think I'm technically a senior in seminary getting my master's, but there's not a senior in this church now. So we all have been there and we've all succeeded, right? We've all graduated out of high school, we've all done something, and we're all continuing the journey, right? And yet these 4 seniors are looking at the future and it's unknown to them. There are millions of people that have transitioned. They know the transition is coming, and they're like, am I going to succeed? And the coolest part about what these 3 churches have done, what you have done, and I just don't think you know it yet, is that Pastor Caitlin, she's the youth pastor there, recognized that these seniors have questions, and so she created a senior-only night to help them with college, like applying for it, for how to transition. They played this game. It was similar to Monopoly, but they included taxes in it. And the only thing that the seniors talked about after the event was, why do I have to pay taxes? Right? And they know they're going to have to pay taxes. This is not a surprise. It's not like their parents didn't tell them or they didn't overhear someone talking about taxes. And yet that transition is like, wait, what? I got to give taxes? Like, they're literally shocked. They're like, I don't want to do that. Well, we like the electricity, we like the lights and the stop signs, and that, taxes help pay for that. But Pastor, I've been to churches all over America and Australia. I've been to churches in Europe, and I've never seen a church group come together and do a seniors only night to help them succeed with forms, to see them with the next step. And I don't even go. Right? They actually are like, no, actually, Tim, don't come. And I was like, why not? And they're like, well, because there's two other interns that are with you, Pastor Brogan and Pastor Haki, and they go to the senior only night. And they work there, which frees me up to do, I got finals going on, but to do the care team, we visit Gladys, we visit Joe, and helping set up Caroling. And then at the same time, I go to the youth group, which frees up Pastor Brogan and Pastor Haki to go to the seniors only night and to do the other things. So when I look at this text, when Jesus answers John in such a compassionate way, go tell John what you have seen and heard. And the answer is, 2,000 years later, there's a church doing this very same thing. The seniors are receiving sight. High school seniors. The seniors are learning how to stretch their wings and fly after graduation. The seniors are learning that they can make it in a world that seems totally different, whether it's taxes, whether there's possible recession coming. They're being told, yes, you can succeed. There are transitions. They will happen. But we want you to succeed. You are enabling that because tonight I get to go to youth group and I get to tell them, well, do you like the stop signs? Well, yeah. Okay, those taxes pay for that. And it gives them a perspective. It gives them a hope that the good news brings them. And they are truly blessed by this church, by what you do day in and day out. You have helped seniors in their coming graduation. So life happens, right? We have Caroling coming up next week, 3:30. No matter what, the time won't stop. It will come. We're going to have a good time, so please, if you're available, come. If not, no worries. If you can come to the soup afterwards, all the better. Transitions happen. We want you to know, right? We give the announcements. Another way of saying announcement is a prophecy. God gave those prophecies and said, hey, there's going to be someone that's coming next. He's going to do incredible things and give you hope. And 2,000 years later, we still have that hope that helps us succeed when the world seems a little dark and a little dreary. When there's wars and rumors of wars, God still says, I want you to succeed. I want you to have hope. I want you to have the blessing of music, of art, of knowledge to know that you can make it in this world. And the coolest part is that this church is doing that today, is living out that hope and giving that hope to the next generation of me, a future pastor, and also to the next generation of high schoolers